आज मैं बैठी हूँ एक सीरियल एंटरप्रेन्योर के साथ, जिन्होंने एक के बाद एक सक्सेसफुल एंटरप्रेन्योर और सक्सेसफुल बिजनेस सेटअप किए। और आज हम उनके ही एक और वेंचर में बैठे हैं जिसका नाम है कोकर्मा, जो कि एक को वर्किंग स्पेस है। और आप सबको पता है कि को वर्किंग स्पेस इज क्वाइट द बूम एंड क्वाइट द टॉक ऑफ टाउन अभी इंडिया में। और स्पेशली क्या है सिचुएशन को वर्किंग स्पेस इंडस्ट्री का, और कैसे कैसे आगे और तरक्की होगी इस इंडस्ट्री में इंडिया में, जबकि अभी अभी हमने कोविड फेस किया। और क्या हमारे जो चैलेंजेस रहे थे लॉकडाउन और कोविड के दौरान, तो उसके बाद कोवर्किंग स्पेस में कोवर्किंग इंडस्ट्री में क्या क्या चेंजेस आए, क्या पॉजिटिव रहा, क्या नेगेटिव रहा, तो एज एन एंटरप्रेन्योर इनको क्या क्या फेस करना पड़ा, वो सब के बारे में बात करेंगे और सीखेंगे कि कैसे स्क्रैच से बिजनेस बिल्ड कर सकते हैं। आइए मिलते हैं तरुण से।
Hi Sujata, how are you?
I'm good and thank you so much कि इतने शॉर्ट नोटिस पे आपने मेरा इनवाइट एक्सेप्ट किया और मुझे यहाँ कोकर्मा पे बुलाया और ये इंटरव्यू का चांस मिला।
No problem. Thank you so much for inviting me. Thank you for having me here.
सबसे पहले तो कोकर्मा इज अ वेरी इंटरेस्टिंग नेम
Uh-huh.
फॉर अ कोवर्किंग स्पेस।
Right.
तो ये नाम का कॉन्सेप्ट कहाँ से आया और क्या क्लिक किया, ये नाम आपने सोचा?
So essentially the concept is co-working, right? And karma is also doing good work.
Right.
So the idea behind co-karma was people coming together and doing good work so that we make the world a better place.
Right.
So that's the idea and the essence behind the name. The way I got the idea was, when we were thinking about this concept, we were thinking of a name to go with, and we discussed probably about 100 names and we couldn't come up with anything nice. And then you have these eureka moments as entrepreneurs, right? While I was driving one day during that week, it just hit me that karma is also doing good work.
Yes.
So why not co-karma? And yeah, that's how the name was born.
मुझे ये बताइए कि when we talk about co-working space,
Yeah.
is it only a real estate business or is it more than that?
No, it's a lot more than a real estate business. In fact, it's a hospitality business at its core, because what you're essentially doing is you're building a space and you're serving people who are working from that space. So think of co-working as a hotel business.
Right.
In a hotel business, what happens is a brand like Taj or a Hilton, they would build up rooms, right? And they would have guests coming in and they would sort of use the spaces on a daily basis or a weekly basis at most. In a co-working space, what happens? You build up an office and you have different units within that same office. And a lot of these people or clients, they use these spaces for months or years. That's the only difference. The tenure is the only difference. But essentially what you're doing for these people is providing a nice, comfortable space so that they can focus on their work. So it is less of a real estate business than a hospitality business. Along with this, it's a community business. So what you're also doing is, because these people stay on for a longer duration, their neighbors are also businesses. So there's an opportunity for them to do business within them. So for example, there is a HR company within CoKarma. She has all her clients within our sort of spaces. And then it's a win-win for everyone. So people who are looking for HR services have somebody sitting them, next to them, right? So that way, it has multiple aspects apart from being a nice real estate business. Yeah.
Collaborations can happen under one roof.
Yeah.
Right.
In fact, I'll tell you how I got the idea, right? So when we first thought about CoKarma, this was when I was studying and working in Australia. And when we thought about CoKarma, we thought co-working spaces. We thought it's a nice real estate business. Maybe we will do this when we grow old,
Right.
because that's how it seems from far. But when we got deeper into it, and when we came back to India, we were looking for a space to run our startup from. And that's how CoKarma was born, right? So we were looking for a small space where we can run our 4-5 people company from. And we live in an area in Hyderabad called Himayatnagar. We used to live there, right? So there we were looking for co-working spaces. We thought nothing close by at that time. We will start a small space of ours, run our 4-5 people company from there. And that's how a small 40-seater CoKarma was born.
Okay.
From there, it has become a 12-50-seater space now. a business that does, pan Hyderabad and planning to go pan India. But yeah, so that's how people look at it from far. People think of it as a real estate business, but there's a lot more to it.
So when we are talking about that, like when you are saying that we were thinking of
Yeah.
building this business and we were thinking,
Yes.
so I know that this we is your wife,
Yeah.
who is also the co-founder of CoKarma.
She is, yes.
So how is it working with your own relative, with a relative who is so close,
Yeah.
like your wife,
Right.
and sharing workspace with your wife? How is it? And what are the maybe we can talk about what are the plus and minus points?
Yeah, I think there are more pluses than minus points to start with. See, both, it also depends on who you are as individuals. Both Ekta and I have worked before doing businesses together. In fact, CoKarma is our second business that we're doing together, right? So she has had 10 years of experience before doing business, and I've had a lot of experience working in Australia and doing other businesses as well. So both of us are very thorough professionals to start with. So that's, I think, first thing that you need when you're doing business with anybody. You need the other person to be professional. The second thing is, I think the camaraderie and the synchronization is there between us because we know each other so well. So that's the other advantage, right? So if you know the other person well, if you know your co-founder that well, then you understand when the good moods are. You understand, how to influence what you want to put across, how the other person wants to communicate to you or influence you. The biggest advantage, I think, Ekta being my wife and the co-founder is, a lot of entrepreneurs, when they go back home, it's very hard for them to explain to their family, their wife, their parents about what they're doing and why they are in a certain situation, right? Because as entrepreneurs, you have ups and downs, more downs than ups. But with my wife being my co-founder, I don't have to explain that. She knows what's happening. Luckily, she also comes from a background where her family, was into business all their life, and my family has been into a business all their life, right? So that way, explaining to a business family how to run a business is also, is also a good thing. I mean, it makes things easier.
Decision making situation, क्या वहाँ पे कोई ऐसा सिचुएशन आया है या आ सकता है, कभी ऐसा हुआ है कि डिसएग्रीमेंट ऑफिस से घर पहुंच गया हो या घर का कोई घर से ऑफिस पहुंच गया हो और तर्क वितर्क चलता ही रहा हो और बड़ा मुश्किल हुआ हो उस चीज को सॉल्व करने में, या फिर ऐसा कुछ ऐसा हो सकता है या हुआ है कभी?
सी, ऐसा होता है। अगर मैं आपको बोलूंगा कि डिसएग्रीमेंट्स नहीं होते हैं तो ये तो झूठ है एब्सोल्युटली। आप हर बिजनेस में, हर टीम वर्क में, देर आर, बिकॉज देर आर मल्टीपल पीपल, देर आर पीपल विद डिफरेंट ओपिनियंस एंड यू विल हैव अ डिफरेंस ऑफ ओपिनियन. The maturity comes in how you handle it. You have to agree to disagree, right? And then you have to also agree that you have to do the right for the business. For example, if you're making a decision for our family, we always think about what is best for the family and then make the decision according to that, regardless of what each of us individually thinks. The same way, when we are thinking about business, when we are thinking about CoKarma, we decide in a way which is best for CoKarma, rather than putting our individual egos or relationships in between. So the other thing that people have to do is have different roles. When you have somebody as a co-founder, you can't have somebody who is doing exactly the same things as you.
Right.
So Ekta comes from a chartered accountancy background, right? So she handles all the accounting, finance, invoicing, all those aspects of the business which are related to money and finance. I come from an operations marketing background, so I handle the operations, the marketing, the front end, the building of the space aspect, right? So the client facing aspect. So the way we put it is, if I'm the face of the business, she's the backbone.
Yeah.
Right. So that's how it works. That's how it's been working well for the past 4-5 years. And yeah, we only see good things together.
Tell me one thing, when we talk about co-working spaces, अभी मतलब ज़्यादा टाइम नहीं हुआ है लॉकडाउन को खुले हुए
जी.
तो उससे तो हमने देखा है कि आदत बल्कि बहुत ऐसी हो गई है कि nobody wants to come back to office. सारे कंपनीज को तो अपने एम्प्लॉइज पे उल्टा दबाव डालना पड़ रहा है that you have to come to office and work. and या फिर they are looking for a hybrid kind of situation where they can employees can work from home and employees can work from office. वहाँ पे co-working ऐसे एक सिनेरियो में co-working का या co-working इंडस्ट्री का क्या महत्व रह जाता है, क्योंकि इतना फ्रीडम हो गया अभी हमें एज ए एम्प्लॉय, हम तो घर से भी काम कर सकते हैं
जी।
एंड अगर मैं एक स्टार्टअप हूँ तो it's a very good concept that has come to me. I can work from home. Then what is the importance of co-working space?
यानी बहुत अच्छा सवाल है. See, when COVID hit, right, our first thought or my first thought as an entrepreneur was very optimistic. I was like, the world is not going to end here. हम सब यहाँ पे खत्म होने नहीं वाले. So जब ये कोविड की सिचुएशन खत्म होगी तो क्या होगा, वर्ल्ड कैसा रहेगा? तो मेरा फर्स्ट assumption ये था, my first assumption was that when people come back to work, they will look for flexibility. They will look for options near their home. Businesses won't know how many people will come back to office, right? So they will look for options where if they are a 100 people company, you know, they would want a space for 10, 15, 20 people, so that जो ऑफिस आना चाहता है उनको बुला लो, और जब जैसे जैसे लोग ऐड होंगे उनको ऐड करते जाओ टीम में. And then you know, our Indian homes, the way they are structured, right, you don't have situations where everybody can work in the same home, right? You don't have proper desk, you don't have separation in terms of your, you know, office room and then your, you know, sleeping room, right, so to say. So हमारे इंडियन होम्स ऐसे डिजाइंड है कि जॉइंट फैमिलीज रहती हैं, बच्चे हैं आपके आसपास, दोनों हस्बैंड एंड वाइफ, मान लो अगर एक रूम ही है तो दोनों कॉल्स कैसे लेंगे, राइट? आपको मीटिंग रूम तो डिजाइन ही नहीं होता है हमारे घरों में. सो ऐसे घरों में क्या होगा सिचुएशन कि दे विल लुक फॉर प्लेसेस वेयर दे कैन गो बाय टू अ नियर बाय कोवर्किंग स्पेस एंड वर्क फ्रॉम देयर, राइट? सो काम तो करना ही है, सर्वाइवल तो है ही गिवन. सो वी थॉट दैट, यू नो, व्हेन कोविड एंड्स, it'll be a Zoom moment for co-working spaces, which is what has happened. A lot of people will look for flexibility, look for options nearby their home, and take co-working as a natural option.
Right.
A lot of large companies, this is what another thing that is happening. A lot of large companies, right, have realized that, you know, managing these offices is another work that they have, right? कि भाई एक facility manager को hire करो, एक अच्छा सुंदर office बनाओ, build an office. That's a whole task in itself. Then all this capex on their books, right? So all of that is taken off when you think of co-working as a solution. So what has happened now? We are in what? July 2023. Companies, you know, have understood how co-working spaces work. They've understood the benefits of it, and most of them are looking for this as an option.
Larger companies are taking up spaces within the co-working spaces.
Yeah.
So do you think कि ये सिर्फ एक solution है for the bigger companies, या फिर the co-working space is much more has a wider retrospect, wider aspect to all kind of businesses?
No, it appeals to all sorts of businesses, right? In fact, it appeals to individuals as well. So for example, we have had people who work at Deloitte, but they would take just one desk or one small cabin at our space and work from there.
Okay.
So CoKarma has 6 branches, by the way, in Hyderabad. We're building a 7th branch, which is going to be our largest branch in the city.
Okay.
But among these, that is coming in Kokapet.
Okay.
Right near the Neopolis IT corridor that is coming in the city. But among these 6 branches, right, we have units which are just 1 or 2 people units, and then we have units which are 100, 200 people units as well, right? So we appeal to a wide range of, segment. So companies that want 20, 30 people solutions or 100 people solution, there is an option for them. So that office is set for them. If they want to start, they can just start off with their team and then eventually grow from there.
Right.
Yeah.
You have so many branches in Hyderabad. What do you think that what is the market of Hyderabad for co-working spaces? How is it accepting, or what is the ROI that we are getting in this industry?
So Hyderabad has been very accepting for co-working spaces. If you talk about just the city, pre-COVID, if you talk about 2019 days, Hyderabad probably had about 15 to 20,000 co-working seats. Right now, it has about 75 to 80,000 co-working seats.
That's a big number.
Just within Hyderabad, right? And then if you talk about larger cities like Mumbai, Delhi, and Bangalore, which have the majority of the co-working market share, they have seats which are 2.5 lakhs as well, right? So there's a lot of co-working seats, and this particular industry is growing at a rate of 15 to 20% per annum. In fact, last year, in terms of the office absorption, if the office absorption, was a certain number, 50% of that was absorbed by co-working place, right? So co-working as an industry is doing really well. I think there's only good times. We as CoKarma predict that majority of the office space industry will convert into co-working eventually. So about 40 to 50% of office space market, which is about a $1 trillion market in India, that will convert into co-working spaces. So it's a huge market.
What do you think इसमें हैदराबाद का कितना cut होगा? What would be the
It depends on how many companies sort of come to Hyderabad. Hyderabad as a city has done really well in the past 4 or 5 years for numerous reasons, right? So the cost of living is, fairly reasonable in Hyderabad, right? You have a good, stable government which is supportive of, IT and growth and progress. You have a great infrastructure here. If you talk about things like ORR, within the city, you don't have a lot of, I mean, there is traffic congestion, but you don't have as much traffic congestion as Bangalore or Mumbai yet.
Yes.
So city is growing in a very planned manner, and there are only good things ahead of Hyderabad. And I think co-working will be a very, very good natural solution, which a lot of companies and a lot of people are accepting in the city. Yeah. Yeah.
आपसे मिलने से पहले I was doing a little bit of research on co-working.
Right.
I was reading these articles where articles written by Indian journalists
Right.
and articles written on different co-working spaces from different parts of India. And they were talking about कि कैसे co-working spaces in India has to become inclusive
Yeah.
and more diversity has to be there.
Right.
So what are your thoughts on that and what are the policies of CoKarma?
Right.
When it comes to inclusivity, when it comes to diversity, be it to diversity for women,
Right.
Diversity for our LGBTQ community,
Right.
or diversity for our maybe specially abled entrepreneur or someone like that.
Right.
तो उसके बारे में क्या policies हैं या फिर क्या सोच है?
See, पहली बात, charity begins from home is how they put it, right? A lot of things. So we as a company, we are two founders in the company. One of the founders is a woman, right? CoKarma at its core team, 50% of our team is women. I personally have been a big advocate of women doing well. For example, when I was really young, I used to see a lot of my cousins, my female friends or cousins who were sort of getting married at a really young age, but had a lot of potential when they were in school, right? So my thought as a kid was always, why are these women not able to realize their full potential? So I took it upon myself to make sure that whoever woman I have near me should do well. So and in that journey, I'd supported my sister. I don't know if you spoke about this before. So my sister is a doctor now.
Okay.
And I'd mentored her most of her life to get to this journey. We come from a normal middle class family where my parents couldn't afford a lot of things, right? So when I was studying in Australia, I paid all her sort of fees when she was doing MBBS. And then also tried to be a mentor to her to make sure that it's a hard journey for her as well, right? It's a hard course. Being a doctor is really hard. So supported her through that journey. So she's a doctor now. She did her MD. Now she's doing a DM. She lives in Delhi now, and then she supports herself, right? So really proud as a brother to see that.
Right.
I was a 21-year-old kid supporting a 16-year-old sister, and one of the most expensive and hardest education at that time, right? So being an advocate of women education and women empowerment from right from my roots in childhood. Wanted my wife to do well as well. She has all the freedom to do whatever she wants. In fact, my mother has been a biggest supporter in this business, right? So when we were a small 40-seater space as CoKarma, we were also doing an edtech startup on the side, which wasn't doing as well. So my mom, I used to speak about my business to my mom a lot. So one day when we were sitting on a dining table, seeing me down, she was like, if CoKarma is doing well, why don't you sort of expand that,
Right.
grow that and see how that does and where that takes you.
Right, right.
And that's when it hit me that, okay, we are a 40-seater space, let's expand that to an 80-seater space and how that does.
Right.
We made that decision and I'm glad we did. That space got filled up in about 15, 17 days.
Okay.
And then from then on, we decided, this was in the year 2018, early 2018. And that's when we sort of decided that there is something in co-working,
Right.
and we should pursue that full time.
Right.
So I've been that sort of a person, so to say. In terms of how CoKarma as a company brings in diversity, co-working as an industry is so diverse because you have within one sort of office, multiple offices working together. For example, if you talk about this particular center, this Begumpet center, we have companies such as Zepto, Dish TV, Royal Enfield, and a few startups working from this particular space. So if you talk about a company like Dish TV, the average age in that company is about 40, 45. Okay. If you talk about a company like Zepto, the average age from the branch here is about 25, 27. So in terms of age diversity, that is already there. Then we have a woman entrepreneur running her CA firm from here. In her team, it's all women. So if you have a neighbor which is an all women company, and if you have a neighbor which is slightly aged but mostly men, you see women around you, and then you understand that there are advantages of having women around you, and then you try and bring that into your company culture. So co-working as a sector in itself brings diversity by its design, so to say. So that is there. Now, what we're also doing with all our spaces, we make sure that these spaces are designed in a way that if somebody is handicapped or specially able, they should not have any inconvenience in terms of accessing their sort of cabin or their desk, in terms of accessing the cafe, in terms of accessing the washrooms, right? So we try and provide every support in terms of the way we design it to make sure that they are included in the space as well, and then they feel empowered while they're working from here.
So you have already, while building up CoKarma, you and your co-founder has already thought about these.
Yes. So and I should also mention, it's not just me and my co-founder. With every space, we have partners as well.
Okay.
And these partners play a critical role in terms of designing the space and then building the space and running the space as well, right? So all these partners are also aligned with us. They share the similar vision of making sure that we make the space inclusive, we make the space comfortable, so to say, for everyone. Yeah.
Now, if okay, recently we have just come out of the whole pandemic situation.
Right.
And because of that, we can see that big companies are opting for co-working spaces.
Yeah.
Okay. But what if they go back to what we used to have in 2019?
Right.
तब हमारे co-working spaces का क्या future रहेगा?
See, this is, if you think about companies like Uber, right? Services like Uber, what has happened is once people learned that at a push of a button, they can get a car at their doorstep and they don't have to stand out, ask for an auto, and waste 15 minutes. Once they, get to that behavior, once they learn that behavior, it's very hard for them to change. So co-working is similar to that. Once they get into this behavior of getting a ready office, a ready, beautiful office, right, where they just come in, focus on their work and go home. Right. And everything else is managed for them. Right. Their cafe is managed, their internet is managed. They just pay one bill. All their bills are covered. So they don't have to deal with multiple people, multiple vendors. So their life is made easy by coming into a co-working space. So why would somebody want to get into a harder life when their life is made easy already? Right. So it's a bit like that.
So we can say कि it is going to stay. ये जो अभी हम एक नया दौर देख रहे हैं, हाँ, ये चेंज तो नहीं होने,
ये तो दौर है, कोवर्किंग का दौर तो आ गया है बस, ये जाने वाला नहीं है, चलेगा ही है अब तो.
I was also reading that it was an article for a US co-working space. उसमें they were talking about the co-working spaces doing different kind of collaboration with different other kind of companies,
yeah,
like maybe providing transportation for their women entrepreneurs or women employees, or some other kind of cafe collaboration or something like that. ये इंडिया में कितना होता है, या फिर कोकर्मा कितना इसमें क्या बिलीव करता है, या अभी ऐसा कोई कोलैबोरेशन आपका चल रहा है, या आगे आप सोच रहे हैं?
नहीं, कोलैबोरेशंस काफी होते हैं. See, if you think about just CoKarma, right? We have what about 1250 seats, about 2000 members using our spaces. Some, most of them permanent, some of them temporary, using our spaces every month. In an year, we sort of come close to about 10,000 members who sort of have some sort of touch point to our spaces and our services. So when you have so many touch points and when you have so many businesses working under your sort of branches, a lot of people want to associate with you. For example, we do collaborations with a company called Ichai.
Okay.
So Ichai is a network which sort of does events and meetups across India and across globe, right? So this is an Ahmedabad-based company which does this. So we do a lot of monthly meetups and events in collaboration with them, right? There are a lot of food companies that sort of come and distribute their foods or want tasters so that people here can try. So for example, Red Bull, they do monthly sort of tasters.
Okay.
They bring in free cans, distribute to our members.
Right.
So it's a way for them to introduce their cans to new people.
Right.
And it's for us to sort of give some sort of refreshment to our members. There are a lot of chartered accountancy firms, a lot of digital marketing firms and HR firms that collaborate with us, and we can pass on those services to our members.
Right.
Right. So a lot of these collaborations happen.
Right.
Yeah.
From day one of CoKarma till now, what is the growth you have seen? And और क्या देखते हैं फ्यूचर में
जी
और क्या पॉसिबिलिटीज हैं और क्या हो सकता है
जी सो सी अभी तो कोकर्मा के बारे में हम इतने कॉन्फिडेंट वी वांट टू टेक कोकर्मा फ्रॉम हियर टू द वर्ल्ड राइट वी स्टार्टेड विद अ स्मॉल 40 सीटर स्पेस and then we sort of slowly get to a certain level pre-COVID. COVID में थोड़ा break लग गया, but now COVID has only helped us accelerate things. So for example, we started 2 new branches just this year in January and February, and they got filled up in no time. Now we are working on our 7th branch, which is going to be our largest branch, as I said. We want to take CoKarma from these 6-7 branches to about 15 to 20 branches in the next 18 months to 20 months, and then see where life takes us, right? So there's a lot of potential, and the market is only growing, as a co-working industry, and CoKarma is only looking at growth in the coming times. Yeah.
Thank you so much, Tarun. Thank you so much for talking to us
No
and
problems.
Sharing your life experience,
Right.
your journey, sharing your thoughts and experience of working with your wife as a
Right.
co-founder. तो आई एम श्योर कि जो भी ये वीडियो को देखेगा कुछ ना कुछ सीख के ही जाएगा तो आप प्लीज इस कैमरे में देख के हमारे व्यूअर्स के लिए अगर आप कुछ मैसेज देना चाहें या फिर हमारे वुमेन सब्सक्राइबर्स के लिए यंग एंटरप्रेन्योर्स के लिए कोई मैसेज देना चाहेंगे तो
Sure. Thank you so much, Sujata. It was a pleasure doing this interview and talking to you. I was glad I could share some of my stories and journey. But मेरा message, young entrepreneurs and women entrepreneurs के लिए यही रहेगा कि everybody has potential, and then there are ways you try and understand and realize that potential. So work towards that. Understand what your potential is and find a way to sort of make pull of it. Yeah. Thank you so much.